Hi, my name is Man, and I'm the founder of Let's Recover. And today we have Michael with us, and we're gonna have a chat. Michael,
Hello, my name's Michael Horner. Chatting with Marn and looking forward to talking with her.
yeah. So Michael, I think I would like to start with what concepts of addiction is. Because now people are very attached to the idea that addiction means substances, and in my experience, substance was not my problem. The beginning of my addiction is from childhood. It's from my thinking, and I was addicted to a lot of things before I ever touched a drop of alcohol or drug. So what is your experience in that?
Well, when you're speaking of conceptual uh, addiction, I believe that there's a lot of probably perception in the world and most of it comes from the substance abuse. But once you become aware more of the addiction, you find out that it's not actually the substance. The substance is just the derivative that you use during your addiction. There's various, and there's a lot of addictions, but the concept of just being alcohol or drugs is becoming an antiquated thought process in the addiction, because what it is that's only a symptom of addiction. And I thought that was everything that there was. When I first got into to recovery, I thought I was only concerned with my alcohol usage, and that if I eliminated that, then everything would be hunky-dory and I'd be back to normal life. But it doesn't quite work that way. And I found out the hard way that I'm never really cured of alcoholism. I just prevent it from happening on a daily basis. And I put things into my life that help me deal with that. And it's been successful so far.
So this idea that you never recover from the disease of addiction, or like addiction being a disease, do you think that's true? Because sometimes I think that there's two separate things. I think that there's the addiction, and then there's me, and I'm the problem. The addiction is just a manifestation of I'm trying to cope with something using this addiction. Now, until I change, right, I'm always gonna be a recovered addict, but I can change, and I believe that when you change here in the mind, then you are recovered. You're not a recovering like forever needing to use things to help you cope with life. I think it's about changing fundamentally your thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of change that's involved with it. My thought process has definitely changed since coming in, and
Like, give me an example. What is your thought process that changed?
I would always jump to conclusions that I was always right. And
But you are always
if
right.
and or but, there was nothing else that I believed was correct until I understood that other people, there's a possibility that they could be right.
Right.
And so I allow myself, or I taught myself actually, to listen to other people's opinion. And this has helped me immensely with my communication skills and my listening and moving ahead in life, because I don't know it all.
Right.
And
Right.
if I listen, the more I listen, the more I learn.
Yeah, no, I had the same when I first came in. I was Miss Know It All. Like, I know better. I before I came into recovery, I would go to different self-help stuff, like
Yes.
retreats, meditation, yoga, and retreats. And I would be the guy who would cross my arms and cross my legs, and I'm like, what bullshit? You don't know what you're talking
this isn't
about. Like,
working. You're not doing
just,
it right.
yeah. My hand is like, I just, these people are stupid. Like, I know better,
Yes.
And it was only when I came into recovery was the first time I don't even listen to my parents. Anything they tell me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, But it's the first time I came into recovery. It's the first time I actually thought maybe I don't know better, Why is that? How did that happen? I mean,
It's almost an awakening moment, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's a very self-realization that, you're not the pinnacle of the world and everybody doesn't listen to you, because I would sit home drunk off my ass thinking that Hollywood's getting ready to call me and I have the idea for the next it.
Really?
And so it was self-awakening. There's a lot of humility involved, but my thinking had to change in order for me to change. And that's where I have to allow myself to believe that it will change it for the better.
Yeah, I had a lot of that. I'm a legend in my own mind.
Yeah.
And as I got more and more drunk, I would think the world and its people are the problem. My boss was the problem, people were the problem, and I'm just very misunderstood.
I quit meth and I quit cocaine instantly. I lingered on cigarettes, but alcohol kept coming back for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I felt as though
maybe it's legal and
socially it's acceptable,
yeah.
And it doesn't do the damage. And I didn't drink and drive that much, and I didn't kill anybody. But I didn't see what it was doing. I felt very relaxed and happy when I had it, and it was just the opposite effect for me. But it was everything. I had to have it. Cigarettes went after a few attempts, but alcohol has been a driving force to stay with me for some reason.
What about food? Do you have a food addiction now?
I hate food. I work in the kitchen, so I really can't stand food. It's every day. It's like, I like to have the option of cooking. I don't have to cook, but I have to cook because I work at it. It's my profession. So it's like, a boat captain getting off a boat and getting on his own boat, go out for a pleasure craft. It's just too much for me. I've come to realize that I took up culinary because it's creative, but it is such a stressful world. To be in the kitchen, to work under those conditions has really changed my opinion on culinary arts. I really don't consider it an art anymore. I consider it a very strenuous and stressful life experience for me. Some people don't deal with it the same way I did.
Yeah.
And I started drinking in the early career of my culinary. So,
it's quite rampant, right, in the culinary world.
F&B is food and beverage industry is very polluted with drugs and alcohol.
You work such long hours,
A lot of people do. Bankers work it too, and who knows? Maybe that's prevalent.
They drink a lot too,
Teachers
drink
how
a
to
lot.
deal with kids. I was a bartender, and I remember when teachers would come in, and they were ungodly. Yeah, but I don't want to say that all teachers are. I don't want to say all bankers or all culinary people are drunks or addicts. It's just that it's prevalent in the industry, and I believe that the industry should take a look at it in order to help with its healthcare as well. They should afford benefits for people that work in there and help them along if they need it.
I mean, the problem is, I don't think that the industry is to blame. I was in the design industry. We were like pretending to be rock stars, And my bosses were the ones who were buying the alcohol and drugs, So every industry has that, I usually, the biggest excuse I hear is like, I met my friend who's still an active addict. His excuse was he's an architect. So he has to entertain and he has to talk to clients and they drink. So he has to drink with them. And I said, do you have to? Really? Can you say, I have an allergy. I can't drink. He said, no, I can't. I have to drink with them. that's how I get work. So every industry has an excuse,
I mean, the whiskey salesman, of course.
Salesman,
Yeah.
right.
How does he get along without taste testing and whatnot and becoming addicted to it? And the thing is, he could probably be the whiskey salesman may not be a sales. It's not because it's over and over. It's not because I keep doing it. It's just that sometime it came along and said, you can't live without me. And I accepted that fact. And I said, okay, I got to have it. And every day I would do everything I could to have what I needed, whether it be a drug choice or alcohol or a cigarette, I had to make sure that I had it. So somewhere along this line, it's not the industry, it's Michael.
Right. So I want to bring up, like, there are a lot of studies on, like, psychiatrists or therapists who has attributed childhood to addiction. Like, you must have had trauma in order to become an addict. A very famous psychologist in the field, Gabor Mate, basically this childhood trauma, and do you think that's true? That is childhood trauma, or are people born with this genetics, or is it that it is childhood trauma, or is it the industry that makes people?
I can't think of any trauma that I had to deal with.
Right.
That would cause
you had a good childhood, right?
I think it was one of the best, that was possible. Being a white person in America and having both parents working, and it was a wonderful time. I didn't really have anything that stands out. And I've searched my memory banks. But right now I don't have anything. I've never gone to therapy for any issues or trauma acts. I've never been abused sexually by my father or mother or that I know of. And
what about emotional abuse? Have you ever had, like, physical or emotional abuse?
I am not really sure what it is. What would be considered emotional abuse? I thought that I was an extrovert going into secondary year. I guess it would be high school in the States. But there were things that happened in the locker rooms that I wasn't really happy about.
Oh my God!
And so,
what happened in the locker room?
Well, I mean, it's male sexuality and stuff like that. It was the first time that I'd ever been, seen other guys naked and stuff like that. So it was like, it was a bit of a shock. But they had an initiation on the football team where they would clog the shower floor and then urinate in the shower floor and then make the new guys swim through it and then smack their asses with it. So I brought it to the attention. I said, I'm not doing this shit. I stood up for myself. I'm not going through this. Kick me the fuck off the team. I don't care what you got to do, but I'm not doing this. So I said they're not doing it, and then all the players got all pissed off that I wasn't going to do it. So I'm not part of it. And they said, no, we're going to get you. And I go, well, you got to do what you got to do, But it ended up me bringing it to the attention of the authorities, and of course the authorities took the stance that they never knew it was happening. Had been happening for years, and so from that point on, I think it pretty much was eliminated. But those kind of things where you allow it to happen and don't stand up for yourself or stand up for the other people that can't stand up, that becomes an issue with me. So I did, and those things were, if you want to call that trauma, that's as much trauma as I had to deal with.
Right.
But that's peer pressure stuff.
Yeah, but I suspect, as a recovered addict myself, I don't agree with the childhood trauma thing. That's why I asked you, and I asked somebody with a happy childhood to come, because there are so many people with normal childhoods that are, they're rich, there's poor, there's like all different kinds of childhood. And I think that it's because our minds try to understand why, it tries to give a reason, like I'm such a mess because of, and
right.
But the thing is that there is no why, and there might not be even like a genetic reason, I don't even think that that's genetic. I think that it's just the way my mind processes information. You know, like my mind goes like, okay, if I'm overwhelmed, what do I do, right? And normal,
a lot of truth in that.
Right, like normal people might be like, I'm overwhelmed. This is a very stressful job or situation.
Right.
I need to back off, slow down, take a breath, da da da. You know, like different coping mechanisms. My coping mechanism is to run. I need to get out of here. Like I need to shut this down, like my mind down. And the way I shut it down is with anything, food, Netflix, you know, anything before fantasy, arts, you know, books. And then before I even touched a drop of alcohol, I was always running. So my first addiction, I think, is to my thinking, you know, to my thinking. Like, I think that, like, when I was growing up, I came from a Chinese family. And so, you know, they emphasize on the male in my culture, right? And so my grandmother was always like, my brother was more, like I never felt value, you know? And so I remember being a child and being very young and thinking like, my grandmother doesn't like me. You know, she doesn't like me. And I ran to my mother and said, I don't think grandma likes me, you know? And my mom would be like, oh, you know, you're just being suspicious and sensitive. I've been told I'm suspicious and sensitive all my life. But my mind was fixed on that idea. My grandmother doesn't like me, you know, people don't like me. I'm because why? And then I try to figure out why. And it's like, oh, because I'm not good enough.
Right.
You know, because I'm not worthy, because I'm a girl. And, you know, like it was just, and either I become like, my way of thinking is always like either I become worthless, I'm less than, or I rebel and I become like, fuck this, you know, I'm like gonna show you that I'm better than you, you know, and either way, it's my coping mechanism that is the problem, because I can't keep it up, you know, either way, I can't keep it up without having a drink, you know. When I turned 18, I was like, I had to have a few drinks to shut the door and be this person. I didn't know who I am.
Right.
That's the thing.
When did you first drink?
18?
I was 12.
Wow.
And my first cigarette at 12.
Wow. I mean, who gave you the alcohol?
It was at my parents' house, and they were having a party, and nobody was watching, so I would sneak, you know.
And how did you feel when you had the alcohol and cigarettes?
I felt like I was part of the party, you know.
Right.
It was the first sip. I was like, oh my god, what is that shit? You know, I was like, what are these people doing this for? You know, I smelled it first, and it smelled like soda and a little bit of funny flavor. But then, because they were drinking, I think they called them highballs, 7-Up or ginger ale, and 7 and 7 or something like that it was called. And so I tried it, and it would just burn. And I was like, oh my god, what is wrong with these people? You know. But I remember vividly on the cigarette, I was sitting underneath of a mailbox. I was like only 12 years old. We were all hiding, sitting there. And the mailboxes were on a little post, and it stuck out. And I was sitting underneath of it like this, coughed my head off, but still sticking it right back in my face, because I saw my father smoke. I saw all these other people smoking. So I don't know if it was a fit-in thing for most of the things I tried.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so, but back then the attitude was a little bit different. Socially, it was acceptable because this is the early 60s, early 70s when I did this. And it was just now, thank God, that they've targeted kids not to try to look good. You know, it's not a cool thing. The corporations are not allowed to pick. I mean, I remember having candy cigarettes where they were just candy, and you would have a little pack of candy cigarettes, and it's only a time before you get real ones, you know? So
it's a bit about like drawing it back to our topic about what is the definition of addiction. What would you say it is? Is it the definition is to fit in, or something that you do to try to be accepted, or something that you do that is a coping mechanism? What is your definition? Because I'll tell you mine, right? I think that addiction is a behavior or a thinking pattern that is unhealthy, that is not really helping, but you perpetuate it and you can't stop, even though you realize, oh, it doesn't work, but you just can't stop, Like food addiction was one of them. It's like I would go like, but I feel better. I feel better if I have this jar of Nutella,
Yeah.
Knowing that actually it doesn't make me feel better, like it doesn't make me feel better. But I couldn't stop, and I kept having thought patterns that are kind of making excuses for it, because fundamentally deep down inside there was a problem, and the problem was I didn't feel good, but I didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to acknowledge the bad feeling. Every time I feel bad, I try to get rid of it, and the way I get rid of it is usually something that is very unhealthy, like I try to numb my mind. And so my definition of addiction is really like I'm addicted to a kind of negative, unhealthy pattern of thinking, and instead of accepting that, okay, maybe I'm having a train of thought that is not very healthy, and I'm feeling bad, okay, let's sit with that. Let's sit and feel it a little bit. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I ruminating and in my head beating myself up? Why am I saying I'm not good enough? Why do I say I'm such a loser? And just sit with that. Is it okay? What is a loser? What does a loser mean? What's a winner?
Right.
How are we defining success? And having a contemplative of asking, what is the truth? Like Byron Katie, have you heard of Byron Katie? She will say, question your thoughts. Is that true? Is that true? Like, and go down the train of thoughts, and then understand the feeling and go, okay, that's not true that I'm a loser, just because I'm a girl, like just because I don't have the trappings, like the facade, just because I don't have a car, or just because I don't have a partner, then therefore I'm a loser. What does that mean? To understand that and to sit with that feeling and to kind of become friends or transmute it, We're like, oh, okay, yeah.
And how many people have those things and are not happy as well?
Right.
Or, it's like you said, it's a facade, I believe. Everybody judges their success by different benchmarks. And at different times in my life, success has been different,
So do you think that, for me, the definition of addiction really isn't the reason why, why I'm an addict. The definition is that the thinking process is flawed, like everybody has suffering, right? Everybody has tragedies. I saw this documentary about homeless people, and they went and interviewed a lot of homeless people, and they were all addicts, and they were asked the reason why are you homeless, and the answer is always like some tragedy, my son died, my wife died, I lost my business and so on. But a lot of people's wives and sons die. A lot of people lose their jobs. They don't become addicts. Yeah, they don't become homeless. And there are people whose children die and they got closer and stronger and they built a foundation and help other people deal with grief. So it's the coping mechanism, the thinking and the coping mechanism that is broken, and the running away, the needing to run away with the suffering. And so that's my definition.
Coping mechanism and thought process, are they the same? Because there's a lot of homeless people that in the United States that were former military with combat experience, and that, in my opinion, is one of the worst things trauma that you could go through as far as chaotic or whatnot. And there's people that have done the combat and are not homeless. It's like, where does it? And I'm sure that both sides have torn this apart trying to figure out how and why. And if anybody could put a button on it and say, okay, you won't be homeless because you've dealt with this trauma, it would be a great thing. But it's never that easy. And it's never easy because humans don't deal with the same thing the same way.
Right. Another definition that I've heard along the recovery industry is that the definition is because we're disconnected. So, you come back from war and then you don't have any connection anymore to that world. And that disconnection from other humans is maybe the reason. And that I think might be true, because that's about the ego, like we're in our minds, we are alone and we're against the world, and the world is different. And, my son died, so, I nobody understands me,
Right.
So that disconnects from other humans.
I know that I was drawn to my program that I work with now because I heard other people share the same experiences that I dealt with, and I said, "Oh," so my ears started pointing towards that way, listening to what they did, and they have time without alcohol, and I go, "Yeah," but I have sat and talked with psychologists, psychoanalysts, you name it, and nothing. I wouldn't tell them. I would hold back, and that's where I think when you're saying that, there's a connection.
Right.
When I hear somebody else say something that I shared,
Right.
I couldn't go an hour without drinking. Yeah, me too.
Right.
And so I'm able to let my guard down. Whereas a psychologist is there, and they're saying, this is what you have to do. And, and these guys are just, they have no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in telling them, okay, so where are we going to go? If this is just yapping to me, just talk. Whereas the person in the rooms that I go to, they tell me that this is where they were, this is how they got there, this is what they did to get out. And if I follow that, then I have a pretty good chance that I'll get to see at least what they have, if not better. And so I believe it. I have something to actually see, hear, and be able to strive for.
I think the other thing as well is that the connection needs to be very deep and real, authentic connection. It's hard nowadays. Like everybody's busy, like trying to look good, like everyone's like, I've got this and that. Have you got this and that? And you're like, that the whole Facebook, the whole social media is all about creating envy, envy me.
We didn't believe it started off like that, but it did. It was a meeting engine to get your old flames or whatever you wanted to reach back and see, but it has evolved to where it's.
Yeah.
I only see smiles on her, and then I hear this person committed suicide because they weren't happy, but there's a smile right there last week, and so it's all a facade for Facebook, and it's and I've stopped going to Facebook because of that, because I know it's all BS.
Yeah. So I think the connection is part of the solution, like having authentic connections, people whom you can really talk to. Now, my experience with therapists and psychologists is that they don't know what they're talking about. Same as you. Like I remember, like a psychiatrist, I had to tell him, because they have this textbook. They only know by textbook.
Right.
So they'll ask you, do you have suicidal thoughts?
Right.
If you have suicidal thoughts, here's the pill for suicidal thoughts,
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like...
And that's how I was talked to too. It's like, if he says yes, go to here. If he says no, go to here. And it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Have you had suicidal? And if they won't open up to you, why should I be able to open up to them?
And there's all these photos and certificates at the back, and it's all happy family stuff. And I just felt like, you don't know me. I don't relate to you,
But I don't want to bash those people. I mean, if they can help somebody, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's not. I haven't met too many people in the rooms that have gone and said, "Yeah, I think that guy's better than these ones."
I tell you what's interesting. Like one of the therapists I went to in Hong Kong when I was living there said to me, Man, you have given the remote control of your life over to others, like to the world, to your ex, to your boyfriend, to the boss. And I remember thinking, yeah, you're right. And then what?
Right.
It's like, okay, and then how do I take back my control and power? I don't know how. I didn't know how. And she didn't know how either. She can tell me like, you don't have power.
It's our acceptance too, if we're listening or not. I went to a psychologist that after I broke up with this girl that I was engaged to, and I don't know if we were engaged, but we bought a house together. And she said to me, she says, do not continue with this relationship. It's not good. She wants out. You want to try to continue. And you buying this house is not going to fix it. It's just as if you were trying to have a child to fix a marriage. It's not going to work. And, she was telling me this over and over. That was her one point message to me. Did I listen? No. Did it not work out? Yes. Did it get uglier? Yes. Have I listened to her? And I can't fault her for not having told me the right thing, because she did. She told me, get out, get as far away as possible. It's not working. And I didn't. I said, no, let me buy the house. Let me continue. And I became a heavier drinker because of this, I believe.
Yeah, but sometimes my experience as well in therapy is that I felt worse, because she'll tell me, like, the therapist will tell me, like, yeah, that's because you're searching for love, and you're searching for love in all the wrong places. Right. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah.
But it sounds like a song, It sounds like a song and a dance.
No, but it's like, that doesn't make me feel any better.
We need a reaction. We need help, not, what the reason or what's happening. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
I can tell you too, I'm not feeling good when I talk to this girl. I'm not feeling good. I feel it in my heart, but why? And what can I do about it? And there's no answer for that. There's like, well, run away. Don't continue. But that's not what I need. I need to have that closeness still that I'm regretfully not having.
So like now, after like many, many years in the recovery and having done a lot of transformation stuff.
She has many, many years. I don't have many, many years.
I have many, many years. But as a yoga teacher as well, like now, I would tell people, like, if that happens, like if a recovering addict is come to me with something like this, I would have a totally different
Me
advice.
Too.
What would you have said?
Me too.
What would you have said? If someone is in a destructive relationship.
I would say that you need to reevaluate. My first thing, I've had people already talk to me about this, and I say, take an inventory. Write down the good things about it and write down the bad things about it. And then just weigh in what you think is good and bad, and then look at it again. If you look at it, because in your heart you're gonna strum it over, it's gonna be a little more romantic on things. But if you write it down on paper and you actually look at it and you decipher, I'm a real shithead. This isn't working out. I can't even try to convince myself that this is good for anybody.
Right.
It just has to be. You have to bite the bullet. I've learned that you can sit there and just stroll through it, and you're just going to hurt yourself worse or other people.
So it's about the person realizing it themselves. Yeah. It's not about someone telling you. I would do like different phases, The first phase would be something like that, writing it down. And then the second phase, how do you get your power back? You have to become stronger.
But you're going against what you want, but that's the tough part. Because when somebody told me that I can't drink anymore, my heart sank. I was like, what are you talking about? This is something I need. Yeah. As much as I breathe, I need this. Yeah. And I don't hear myself saying that. I just know that I need it. If I just said that to somebody else and they go, what the fuck are you talking about? You need that much to breathe. It's alcohol. You don't, and so normal people.
I just want to get out of the therapy session so that I can go and get drunk. Yeah, and because I need to block out what she just told me. I need to shut down what she just said.
If I can have it there, I would be sipping on a straw on it.
It's like
I'm a fucking problem,
And then I'll get drunk and I'll be like, I have no control over my life. I've given the remote control over to others. I know that.
I understand it exactly, but it's too late. Now I'm drunk, so I can't do anything.
And then after I get drunk, she's right. I'm a piece of shit. So what? It doesn't help.
You do need some clean and sober time to get your body back into adjustment and to be able to think clearly.
Yeah.
And that helps immensely. But it's one of the toughest situations, and hopefully yoga and meditation help that as well.
Yeah.
It takes your mind away from it. But I don't know if I would have taken meditation and yoga right away as I go, because my fear of not having alcohol was immense.
So I think
it probably would have helped. I don't know. Maybe it would have helped if I had just taken my mind off it.
maybe we talk about yoga meditation later. Let's go back to like the definition. So I think I would like to define addiction as a pattern of thinking that is very unhealthy that you perpetuate just to help try to cope with whatever it is you need to cope, and a disconnect. You know, a feeling of disconnection, like nobody understands me, everybody is, and that I think is very powerful as well. You know, like what we said, because I remember like growing up and feeling like I'm not a part of anything.
Right.
You know, I'm not a part of my family. You know, I'm not a part of my classmates, my school. I couldn't speak the language because I need the authentic, real connection. You know, I need people who tell me, you know what, I feel really bad. I feel really shit today. You know, I'm really stressed and I struggle with this, keeping up this facade. I need someone who can say that, not like, look at me, look how great I am. You know, like, are you going to be as great as me? You know, and that was all I got. Like everyone was just trying to look better, compete with each other. And I really struggled with that. You know, I didn't wanna be a part of that.
I started changing friends. If they weren't drinking as much as I do, I'd leave the ones that weren't drinking as much and move in with the people that were, you know, let's go, you know, and that's another sign. And you can hear other people telling you, your friends are changing. You're not the same person, you know, and for some reason, I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know?
But do you feel like there was a disconnect at some point in your life that like you couldn't, like, you know, you didn't buy into the facade basically, but somehow you needed to keep it up, and so the drinking helps for you to put up the facade. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're not defined by how kind we are or how confident you are, how
Right.
self-assured you are. We're defined by whether we have the car, the house, the job, you know?
It's very materialistic.
Right. And but deep down inside, because we're humans, we know the truth. And the truth is deep down inside, there's a part of every one of us that is like, but I just want love. You know, I just want to be accepted. I just want to be loved. And somehow we can't seem to get that now because everyone's like, yeah, but you know, you can get love if you have the house.
It's easier to buy a car than it is, you know. If you can't find love, it's easier just to buy a car. Maybe somebody will love me because I have a car.
I mean, all the rich people I know are so messed up because they can't find love every time.
All the poor people I know too.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean,
it's not about money. It's addiction's not a bias.
It's about love, and you know. So I think there's two parts to it. It's like the thinking and the lack of connection with other human beings, the lack of love. Yeah, big time. Like, you know, that there's no love, you know, in this world now. It's all about like fame and fortune and power and looks and.
I think the prioritizing has changed a lot. You know, there is a view, but there's also the basics of, you know, you have to have. So maybe it's a by view of, I have love at home, I have kids at home, everything's fine there. I can have this here and show the world that I'm successful. I don't know if there's, you know, availability. I don't know if I can handle that. You know, I don't have to worry about it because I don't have a Maserati or anything like that. But I feel as though my view has changed since becoming sober, that the priorities in my life have changed. I can communicate. I don't have to hide. I don't have to worry about whether I went out drinking last night or if I even thought. I couldn't remember if I drank last night, you know, sometimes. My kids are talking to me. Everybody's happy.
I tell you what's most powerful, I think, when you get sober in the rooms is when you can have authentic connections. I remember like being able to say things like, I'm depressed. You know, I have a lot of fears, you know, around being my family, you know, being kicked out of the house. You know, I can say stuff that I couldn't say outside, you know? Like I remember like going to a yoga training, and it's like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You're with a bunch of people, right? And everyone's trying to look good, right? Because you're yoga teachers. Right. So it's like, look at night, let's download like the universe and third eye and stuff. But the vibe was driving me nuts, because it's not true. None of us are saints. None of us are demons, but we are like both, right? And I remember being able to run to a meeting on Sunday, and I could just sit there and go like, get me out of here, like this
What a relief and a release,
being able to just be authentic and honest about how I feel and not get judged, oh, you're such a loser, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a fucking loser, so what, that really helped,
It does.
being honest, being able to be honest.
That's the whole trick of it. I mean, if you're going to just go in there and tell them what they want to hear, it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Right. Right. You can't save your face and your ass at the same time.
Exactly.
And so why is it that people need to put up this facade so badly nowadays?
Their fear of people recognizing they don't have what they think they have.
Right. Right. And then that's what also makes so the definition is quite clear for us now, I think. But the solution is very difficult, because I find that a lot of times when I talk to people and I say, in order for you to stop an addiction, you need to drop that facade, right? Mm-hmm. You need to put down I need to look good in front of my neighbors. My friends have to think that I'm happily married with 3 kids and my marriage is perfect. Like, you have to drop that. Like that friend of mine, like, you have to drop the fact that maybe you want to look like you're an architect, you get all these jobs and you're a millionaire, whatever, you have to drop that and put how you feel inside as a human being as a priority instead. Like you being happy is more important than everybody else thinking that you're successful, No, people can't do it. They can't do it because the success means the trophy wife, and the trophy wife and the house means respect and people thinking that you're great. That, never mind that every night you're getting drunk and pissing in the bed,
Right.
That's not important, I'm miserable, I don't care, the most important thing is that everybody thinks that I'm somewhat great. And that, it doesn't matter that you can't talk to your partner at all. Like, your partner doesn't even like you, she's just dying to get divorced so that she can get the money. Doesn't matter. The point is, I look good.
Right.
And to ask people to say, it's more important that you feel good. Inside.
There's a time when that has to overpower what you think should be. And sometimes it's not your choice. Sometimes it happens anyway, because, well, I didn't go to rehab because I wanted to. I was forced to go to rehab, and it's like.
How was your experience in the rehab?
I got clean. I got sober. It was a safe feeling, and then they kick you out.
Right.
Then it's up to you. You're clean and sober. Don't have anything in your system. You're not going to die of an overdose as you're walking up the steps. But at the bottom of the steps, when you're out of the door, what then?
Right.
That's your decision time. Okay, that's right there. This is out here, and this is where I came from. And if I don't put up my defenses in order to believe that was right, where I just came from, I'll go right back out. I'll just walk right over to the nearest bar and drink, and it'll just be as worse as it was before.
But does it work to lock someone up in an environment for a period of time and then bring them out? Because I know it's 90% relapse.
Exactly. The stats are saying no, but there's
I tell you a funny story. I sent 2 girls to rehabs, in the program. One to cabin in Thailand and one to something else in Malaysia. I think it was called Serenity or something. The girl in the cabin, she drank on the way back in the plane and jumped over the customs, wrestled with the guards, and got like handcuffed and arrested like on the way back in the plane. I mean, she had 1 month of detoxing.
It wasn't her decision to go there. It was
your
kind of
was, yeah. I suggested, but so I remember, and then the second one didn't work either. I mean, when she's there, she was like doing the like, oh yeah, we were playing guitar, we were like sober and stuff. But then when she came back, The minute there was a problem, the relapse,
I
the
think
coping mechanism.
after my rehab, I think I stayed sober for about 5.5 years.
Wow, that's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a half-ass attempt to deny it part. I just said I was powerless over alcohol and didn't pick up alcohol anymore. But my life didn't change.
Right.
I still smoked weed.
Right.
I still smoked cigarettes. I still went out shopping whenever I felt the need. I still gambled, and stuff like that. That took its place,
So all this stuff, like all this, whether it's substance, gambling, or cigarettes or whatever, underneath it, that's the problem. And the people don't understand that, like, why I don't split the addictions up is because it doesn't matter. You can go to porn, you can go to shopping, you can go to gambling. It doesn't matter. The point is underneath that. That's the problem.
That's where it becomes that's the issue. There's always going to be something. It's just here has to be able to handle
right. It. So I mean, whether it's to put up the facade or whatever, the point is underneath. Now we can talk about the solutions. What are some of the solutions that you think works to deal with this underlying problem of humanity? Actually, it's not just addicts. It's everyone.
Yeah.
And
it's not the gutter. The guys laying in the gutter. It's not just that.
No.
I've been in the gutter. I've crawled out of the gutter. But addiction, shopping addictions, there's so many varieties of addictions that, cost families everything.
I mean, what about the person who thinks that they're right all the time? That's an addiction. That's an addiction of being right, or like the person who is very religious, fanatic, like my God is the only God. I mean, that's an addiction.
There's been wars for that, There's been
wars, yeah.
Of course, I mean, sugar is an addiction.
Right.
Try not to have coffee one day. See how you feel. There's headaches involved. There's no caffeine. There's variety of things that we're not even perceptive to, that we don't even consider an addiction.
Yeah, and so the addiction isn't. I mean, like I know people who are very righteous. They're very hooked on their thinking of what's right or wrong. Like oh, you can't do meditation because Jesus. Like whatever addiction. To me, is really broad. You can be like, it's not just about substance. So underlying all this, a concept like people who are addicted to the concept of who they are. I was sexually
But I don't
abused.
want to paint everything as an addiction either. That because it can become a social word. Oh, you're addicted to this. And then it becomes less effective when it's said to you, an addiction to me, and I can only go back to what I was dealing with, is alcohol controlled my life. I needed to have that, and it destroyed a lot of things. So that's the one that I had to really overcome. Mm-hmm. Then, as I get out of that blur of being drunk, I find other things that are now affecting my life and my decision making that I have to fix, and it becomes more easy to do. Mm-hmm. Whether I fix it or not, that's a different story, but. For me, I had to do this where my life was going to end as I knew it. I was either going to be arrested for something that I didn't even realize I did. My family was going to leave me, and but I don't want to have to go back to what that was, and that's my priority. Other people, just like you said, it is that substance affected me severely.
It's almost like if you take the cap off.
Yeah.
So the substance is the cap,
mm-hmm.
but underneath every person has a bunch of stuff, and the cap goes off, and then now this is who we have to deal with, and I think that's when the trauma or no trauma comes in, because when my cap went off versus your cap went
mm-hmm.
off, you didn't. I don't know if you had to deal with like a lot of the stuff that I dealt with trauma,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's nobody shares the exact same experiences. We can only look at the similarities. And, because I considered suicide at one point in my life, I was laying in the ocean, letting the tide pull me out. Some guy walked by me and says, "Are you okay?"
Mm-hmm.
And I go, "I'm fine. I've never been this fine," and thinking, but he says, I'll just stand up a little bit and stand on the beach. Never knew who it was, didn't, but that person, broke I might have been dead. I might have gone through it, but something
Why
stepped
was
in.
the reason you wanted to attempt suicide? Because you were drinking? You
Yeah, I
couldn't
was
stop?
drunk.
Right.
The house payment, the girl had left me,
Right.
took all my money out of my savings and went to Las Vegas, What stays in what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las